All right, folks, it's a Tuesday edition of College Sports Now. I'm Stephen Hartzell. He's Michael Serber, the dude. We've also got Roddy Jones from ACC Network with us. Fellas, we'll get into Week 9. We'll look ahead to Week 10. Before we do, quick serious note here to start the show. Special thanks to everyone who listens, who consumes this audio product. We had a really big month of October, and I'm grateful for that because it's nice to know that people are listening to the show, interacting with the show on Twitter. The download numbers were great. So just wanted to thank everybody out there for telling a friend or stealing your partner's phone and subscribing just so we can get the stats. But, this whole thing is growing, not because we're promoting it. We are, here and there, but it's nice to have some growth. So
I hear the commercials on the Blitz. Maybe that's what's working. Honestly, I don't know what the statistics say, but I would say one commercial is probably driving people there more than others. I mean, that's just a personal thing. I don't know.
Are you implying that it's your commercial?
You said that. I didn't say that. You said that.
We have 3 co-hosts on the show. We also have some guy named Mike Golick. You may have heard of him. He stops by on Thursday for a little 3 and out segment. But we have 3 co-hosts who punch the clock. Roddy, Wayne, and Felder. All 3 of those guys share. They rotate little promos on the Blitz. So, yeah, that's helped for sure. But it's just been a nice month, man. Like, Roddy, you put in the work. It's nice when you get a little feedback. It's nice when you see that, hey, man, like this is taking off. Like,
yeah, in all seriousness, appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Listen, man, I'll be honest, man. I'm not, mentally, I'm not in a stable place.
What's going on, man? Hold on. Okay. Serber, I don't know if we have any imaging for this, but, do you need to go on the couch? You need to get it out. This is a safe spot.
I'm in an uncomfortable position. I don't know how to feel.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
This Braves,
hang
on a second. This Braves thing is starting to affect me because I didn't allow myself to care until very recently. And now
they were up 3-1. They're now up 3-2, going back to Houston. This is a spot that I've been in before. I am fully prepared for heartbreak. But I'm putting myself out there, Steven, and I'm going to get my heart broken. So, is that what's bothering you? Is that what's going on?
I at some point, I'm pretty sick and tired of always letting people down. Like, at some point, it's gotten to a point where there's a lot of scar tissue. I'm very numb. But if Atlanta blows a 3-1 lead and loses the World Series in 7 games, don't act like that's not going to affect you, man. It
absolutely will.
It's going to suck.
And
I'm staring it in the face right now. I am.
It'll further cement who I am as a person, to be honest with you.
Which is?
I'm a fan of teams that consistently break my heart in the worst of ways. It fits right in with the 3-1 lead that they blew last year to the Dodgers. Fits right in with 28-3. Fits right into the fact that nobody else wins anything. The Hawks, it's our season with the Hawks. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's our season.
It's our year.
Man.
But anyway, look, here's I'm gonna take the non-Atlanta sports fan part of this, Steven. We got 2 games to win 1. Actually, let me correct that. We got 1 game to win 1 because if this thing goes 7, we're losing. We're not gonna win Game 7 in Houston. That's not gonna happen. But we can win in Game 6. So it's okay, man. It's okay. By the time this releases, we'll be mere hours from first pitch.
Yeah, and I won't feel any. I don't know if I'll feel better. Serber, how are you feeling, man? You texted me during Halloween about some juju. You had some good vibes, you were feeling good, and then an hour later you were like, "Yeah, man, I don't feel very good."
So I don't know what happened. Baseball's a funny game. My dad and I were watching the game.
Tell you what happened. Bases loaded walks happen.
Hang on a second, man.
Let the man speak.
Let me
Roddy.
finish my story. Roddy.
Validate his feelings. Come on.
Sorry.
My dad's sitting here. Astros get a man on in the first. He says, "Don't worry about it. Double play." Literally, double play happens. We're in the commercial break. He's like, "I'm feeling it tonight. Braves are going to load the bases and hit a grand slam." What did the Braves do? Which I did. I would look back at him. I was like, "You should have stopped at double play until they actually hit a freaking grand slam."
Yeah, they did.
And you know how high I was at that point on the Braves. I texted Hartzell. I did. I was like, "This is what just happened with my dad. This just happened." I was like, "This is a dream night." And yeah, an hour later, when the Braves had gone down 5-4.
It was 3 hours later. Golly, that game was slow.
You know what?
Whatever. I texted Hartzell the dream was dead.
That's a perfect segue into what this show is supposed to be about, which is a college football podcast, not a baseball podcast.
By the way, Braves got outscored 9-1 after that grand slam.
That hashtag math, Roddy. Thank you. Very nice. I mean, I'm sure the folks at the Institute of Technology are thrilled that you're using that. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
I mean, you got the bases loaded with what? 2 outs with Maldonado up, and you walk him. That's it. That's the moment in the World Series where everything turned.
We don't text each other on the side about sports. We text each other about other stuff, cool stuff like music, food. Whenever one of us gets a Shack-Deroni, we send each other a picture, that type of stuff. I got 2 sports texts from Serber over the weekend. One of them was the Atlanta Braves.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was the finish to the Clemson-Florida State game.
Uh-oh. Bad beat, by the way.
Yeah.
Not for your boy, though. Not for your boy.
Roddy, you locked in Florida State plus 10.5, and you are a lucky soul that you had that hook early in the week.
Blah, blah, blah.
Because that's the only win on your card from week 9. That's what saved you from an 0-6 Rodstradamus appearance. But man, that not only did that affect the spread, that also affected the total, which was at 47. I mean, just the worst beat of not just the week, but probably the entire college football season. That's a rough one. That is a rough one. So, by the way, you were in Winston-Salem over the weekend. You had a front row seat to the Deeks, who will be making an appearance somewhere in the college football playoff rankings. We'll talk about that during the show today. It was good to see you, by the way. Me and Serber met Roddy for dinner. We were kicking it on Friday night. Yep, shout out to Putters. I'd forgotten what it felt like to live in a college town, but the Friday night of homecoming weekend, before a sellout, raucous, rowdy crowd at Truist Field for Wake and Duke, I felt like I lived in a college town, man. So it was good to see you. It was good to talk ball for a little while. What did you make of the Deeks, man? Because they just kept it rolling on Saturday, and you had a front row seat.
Yeah, offensively they kept it rolling. Defensively they needed to have something good happen for them, and Duke is the right team for that to happen for them. Like if you're poor on defense, like have Duke come to town and you feel a lot better about yourself. So the long-term questions about Wake Forest on defense still exist. Offensively, they're still rolling. And look, the overtime win over Syracuse is going to kind of hang out there. It's like, they went to overtime with Syracuse. That win is going to continue to look increasingly better because I think Syracuse wins the next 2 weeks. They got Louisville and NC State, and I think they win both of those. So Syracuse is playing a lot better. I think they're a really good football team now. That win is going to continue to look good. They need to win. Wake needs to win this week. No, they don't need to win against UNC in order to achieve their goal. But, Wake's goal is to win the ACC. You have to beat NC State in 2 weeks to do that, and then you get Clemson after that. You don't want to have to go to Clemson needing a win because Clemson's been, say whatever you want about Clemson this year. They win at home. It's 32. How many is it, Serber? 32, 35 straight in Death Valley? Serber doesn't know. It's over 30 wins at home in Death Valley.
Serber,
they beat Florida State this week. Florida State, nobody wants to see Florida State right now.
They beat a 3-5 team. Neat.
Not only did
Florida
they
State's
win,
playing well. That was an 0-4 team
that
is now 3-5. So they were playing. They're playing well. They're very limited. They're very
Who
limited
they beat?
offensively.
Who they beat, Roddy?
I mean, look, they beat teams. Here's the thing, though, Serber.
They beat some bodies. They've been
playing
some
in
people
the ACC where everyone is different versions of the same team, other than Wake, Virginia, Pitt to some extent, and maybe Miami. Who the hell knows? I don't know. I'm supposed to know what's going on in the ACC, and I don't know.
That's interesting because I was going to bring up, the team that Wake beat on Saturday, the Duke Blue Devils, the Fighting Devils.
I do know about them.
One offensive touchdown in the last 8 quarters. That would
be correct.
That ain't it, man.
And that was against Wake's backups.
Yeah, that ain't it.
No, it's very poor. And I have them again this week against Pitt, and let me tell you, that's not going to go well.
Roddy was right. I should have shown more respect to the Florida State Seminoles, who were coming off a massive win over the UMass Minutemen.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, they weren't. Yeah, I forgot about UMass. But other than that, they've been in the ACC.
Yeah, that win over Syracuse. Oh, boy.
Syracuse is good. We just went through Syracuse. Syracuse is going to be 7-5 by the end of the year.
Yeah, they're going to go to a bowl.
500 UNC.
Yeah. Syracuse is going to be in that pinstripe bowl, man, flying the flag.
I think it's all falling into place for Clemson. They're probably going to win the ACC again based on what I saw against the Noles.
One of the 8, 7, and 5 teams in the ACC has to go to the pinstripe bowl. Have you seen the ACC standings, by the way?
I'll pull them up, but
I don't look at murders on screen.
So in the ACC, you have an 8-0 team, Wake. You have 2 teams with 6 wins, Virginia, Pitt, 3 teams, Virginia, Pitt, NC State, Clemson with 5 wins, and then everybody else is somewhere in that. Oh, and Syracuse with 5 wins, and everybody else is like 4-4, 3-5. Like there's no team with. Everyone has at least 3 wins, and only one team has more than 6. Like everybody's just right here in this squishy middle.
Yeah, and outside of Wake Forest, the longest win streak in the ACC is
2.
Yeah, Miami and Syracuse. Yeah,
Syracuse again.
Yikes! Yeah, it's been a rough
beautiful
year for the ACC.
No, stop it, Stephen.
What?
It's not been a rough year for the ACC. It's been a highly entertaining year.
It is.
There's a lot of good football being played in the ACC, and you know what? People don't watch it. That's the thing, Stephen. I'm going to get on my high horse right now. There's a lot of good football being played. People don't watch it. You need to go and watch. Watch the quarterback play in the ACC, Stephen. Watch quarterback play in the ACC. We got 2 quarterbacks in the Heisman Trophy running.
Stop.
Did you know that?
Stop.
2.
Stop.
Kenny Pickett, Sam Hartman. Matter of fact, throw Brennan Armstrong in there because you know who the nation's leading passer is, Stephen? Do you know who that is?
It's Brennan. Yeah, I know.
Do you know who that is? It's Brennan Armstrong.
Yeah.
It's not your Bailey Zappi from Western Kentucky. It's not your Will Rogers from Mississippi State. Jake Hayner. Oh, he's so good. Carson Strong, first-round pick. It's Brennan Armstrong, Stephen.
Yeah, no, I mean, wildly entertaining guy, wildly entertaining game, Virginia BYU, late Saturday night. While we're looking back at the weekend that was, we got to talk about, Michigan State. I thought Kenneth Walker was a man. I mean, the dude just – here's the thing about Michigan. They did a lot of really good things in this game, Roddy. I know you were working on Saturday afternoon. I don't know how much of this you had a chance to see or if you had a chance to, pull up the tape or whatever, but, like Michigan's throwing the ball. Like they're moving the chains. Like their offense did their part. Couldn't stop Kenneth Walker III, who had 200 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, the guy was a one-man wrecking crew. But you're up 16 points in the second half. Finish the drill. It's a tough loss for Michigan, man. A tough loss.
And that's the thing coming into the game. So the answer to your question is I saw a lot of this game live and then obviously got tied up with having to work the game. So I did not get to see the end. I went into when I started kind of doing my prep or doing my pregame routine for my game, Michigan had this game in hand. This game was comfortably Michigan's. And then you just see the fact that the Michigan defense, which coming into the game was the best unit in the game. If I asked you, stack Michigan State defense, Michigan offense, Michigan State's offense, and Michigan's defense, who's the best? I think we would have agreed and said Michigan's defense. And if you just said, hey, they have got a lead in the second half, and Peyton Thorne's going to have 196 yards passing, who wins the game?
Right.
I would have certainly said Michigan. But in the second half, the Michigan State offensive line's ability to push Michigan around, and then Kenneth Walker's ability to just be a beast, man. He's been fantastic. And to think he was on Wake Forest's team last year, and Wake is undefeated right now. Now, could they use him? Sure. Do they need him? Obviously not. But this dude has been incredible in that system. He's fit really well what they want to do, and his ability to take that game over, in all seriousness, probably vaulted him to the top of the Heisman Trophy conversation. So you got to give a lot of credit to Mel Tucker's team because I did not think Michigan State's defense was going to be able to hold up long enough in this game. I thought Michigan was going to be the one to wear them down on the ground, and it turns out that Michigan did most of their damage to the air. It was almost opposite of what I thought the game was going to play out to be, and it just shows that number one, coming into this trying to prognosticate and guess, it's tough to always know. But number two, the job that Mel Tucker has done this season is going to be studied for years to come. How do you turn it around in this quickly and in this significant a fashion, being physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and obviously hitting a home run on a running back in the transfer portal and a couple of people in the transfer portal. But it's a great win for Mel Tucker in Michigan State. It completely changes what we thought the Big Ten East would look like. going into November. But the Spartans, and this is another college football playoff conversation. Like, that is the third best win all year. The best win of the year is Oregon over Ohio State in the Horseshoe, or at the Horseshoe. The second best win is Texas A&M over Alabama at home. This is the third best win of the year. So where does that put them in the college football playoff rankings?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Mel Tucker is, I don't know if it's changed your perspective on the Michigan State head coach. I knew that he was a really good coach, a really good recruiter. Maybe I didn't know how good of a head coach he was, but I mean, this year, like, he's got to be coach of the year, and I still maintain. I think he's at the top of it.
If they finish 8-4, they're not going to be.
They're not going to finish 8-4, bro.
That's probably correct.
They're not going to finish 8-4, and I mean, I still maintain he's at the top of LSU's wish list. Like, I think he's the guy if you're LSU.
Maybe he is. Yeah, I mean, maybe he is. Because, I mean, that's a place where if you get this type of bump from where Michigan State was last year to where they are this year, if you get that type of bump at LSU, you're winning a national championship because of the talent that they have. So, like, the question I always have about these guys is this a guy that's going to give you a short-term bump and then what's going to happen long-term? Or is this a guy that can actually build a program? He has not proven that he can build a program just because he hasn't been there long enough. Not saying that he can't. He just hadn't done it. He wasn't at Colorado long enough. Wasn't at Michigan State has not been at Michigan State long enough. But, yeah, look, if you want a guy that can recruit that knows the league, absolutely. Mel Tucker's it. And what he's done this year at Michigan State, you can't really argue if they want to go after him.
I mean, they were 2-5 last year. I know 2020 you can throw it out because of the pandemic and all that stuff, but I mean, you want to talk about a quantum leap, not just a leap, but a quantum leap. By the way, remaining schedule for Michigan State. You ready?
Yep.
At Purdue.
Dub.
Home to Maryland.
Dub.
At Ohio State.
L.
Home to Penn State.
We'll see. Penn State played much better than I thought they would in that game over the weekend.
Yeah. I know. I lost
much
money.
Better.
I lost money with Penn State on Saturday night. I will raise my hand and acknowledge that. Speaking of raising my hand and acknowledging
hold
stuff.
on, before we move on from Michigan State, the Mel Tucker to LSU thing is also interesting because anytime you have a black head coach that's rumored for a job in the Deep South, it's a thing.
Sure.
So that is something that would be groundbreaking, I'm sure, at LSU. I don't think LSU's ever had a black coach. I mean, I think I would know that, and I don't think they have. I would assume they have not because it's a safe assumption for most teams in the Deep South.
That's correct.
But like that would be something that anytime you have a head coach, a black head coach, be up for those jobs in this area of the country, it is something that obviously comes into the mix, whether implicitly or explicitly. Either way. So if he's able to get that job, if he does get that job, it would be groundbreaking. I think that should be mentioned as well.
Well, I mean, let's just count it on one hand. The number of black head coaches in the Southeastern Conference. You've had two at Vanderbilt, right? Yep. James Franklin, Derek Mason, Sylvester Croom at Mississippi State.
Yep.
That's it.
Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M.
Kevin Sumlin
at A&M. Thank you, Server. Yeah, so there you go. That's still one hand on this in the Southeastern Conference. We'll see. Speaking of hands, I will raise my hand. I know podcasting is a visual medium. I was wrong about Florida, Georgia. There's really nothing to talk about. I mean,
no, there's something to talk about. Like Georgia's defense continues. Dan Mullen, and look, you were not the only one. So you can raise your hand, and I appreciate you doing that. You were not the only one that was like, oh, Dan Mullen, drop a ball play. Yeah, but look, like that Georgia defense is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Stetson Bennett wasn't even good in the game.
No, he wasn't.
He was like actually kind of bad in the game, and they won 34-7. Like this Georgia, it's the best team in the country by far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to. Like, there's nothing to break down here. I mean, if I'm a Florida fan, or if I'm somebody who lives in Gainesville and is like emotionally attached to this program, which I may or may not have been for a few hours on Saturday, I've got some major questions about like how this guy's going about his business in Gainesville. So I think he's going to be okay.
What are your questions there?
Like, just like, what are you like? How are you managing some of these fourth downs? How are you managing the game? Like, how are you managing the game? Anthony Richardson, like, he looked okay, but I mean, you're 4-4. Like, here's like, you're 4-4.
At the end of the day, exactly.
So I think there's going to be some I think there's going to be some questions. Dude's not going to get fired, but it's definitely going to be one of those things going into next fall where it's like, man, you can't go 500. You just can't keep doing that. Georgia is very good. I mean, they are exceptional. They're elite. They're very, very good. But I still think they're going to have some decisions to make about, hey, man, who's the leader of this offense once we get into games where we're going to need to keep pace with Well,
the thing is, they don't
Alabama.
have any of those until the SEC championship game.
Yeah,
that's it. They're not going to be threatened in the rest of their SEC schedule. And they're certainly not going to be threatened by Georgia Tech. They got Missouri. They got Tennessee.
Tennessee could be tricky. Tennessee could be tricky.
Stop it.
Tempo. Tennessee's going to score. Tennessee's not going to get shut out. That's all I'm saying.
No, but how much are they going to score? What's the most number of Georgia has not allowed more than 13 points in regulation. And will Tennessee be the best offense? Well, they haven't played in overtime games, so they haven't allowed more than 13 points all year. Will Tennessee be the best offense they face? Sure. But Florida didn't score a point until there were under 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So is Tennessee going to score 20? No. And you think Tennessee's going to stop Georgia? Georgia threw 2 interceptions in the game and won 34-7. Georgia was outgained. Phil loves to throw how much you outgain your opponent. Georgia was outgained in this game, and they won 34-7. They were outgained by 1 yard, but still, Georgia was 4 of 9 on third down.
Yeah,
and they won 34-7.
Look, they're playing a different game right now. I mean, they are, and they will be a unanimous. Well, I don't know how the playoff does unanimous pick. They're number one on Tuesday night. They're number one by a country mile, I would think. What else stood out from you from the weekend that was, Roddy? I mean, we can jump around, we can get into this. I do want to talk playoff though, and so I want to give you the floor here in terms of what else stood out from the weekend.
Well, I think a couple of things stood out. One that just has to be mentioned, and we don't have to go deep into this, but this was one of my picks, so I do want to talk about it. What the hell, Texas? The thing is with Texas, at one point you have to luck up and not blow a 2-touchdown lead, right?
Apparently not.
You just stumble into a performance where the game gets short enough where a team can't come back on you. They blow a double-digit lead for the third in the second half for the third time this season.
That's correct.
So to be a Texas fan right now is brutal because this team could very easily be 7-1, but you're sitting it here at 4-4 right now. And you've got Iowa, and you're going to Iowa State next week, like that.
Roddy, I don't know who's playing Oklahoma for that Big 12 championship, dude. I really don't.
It's an excellent question. Who's second right now? Is it Oklahoma State? It's got to be Oklahoma State,
and
right?
Baylor.
And Baylor. Yeah. Look, the Big 10 outside of Oklahoma, Big 12 outside of Oklahoma is fascinating because it's going to be one of those two. Iowa State had everything in front of them, and they go and lay a complete egg. And I didn't see the Iowa State game at West Virginia. Did you see that game?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, your boy Breece Hall fumbled going into the goal or into the end zone at the 1 yard line. Not ideal.
Yeah.
Questionable officiating, just kind of dicey stuff late in the game.
You mean regular
10-second runoff. Like Matt Campbell arguing about being short of a first down, inside of a minute. It was not great. It was. I mean, just listen. West Virginia is a different team at home. I think they're splits home and away. I think they're 8-1 the last 2 seasons in Morgantown. They're 1-7 on the road. I could be off by a game or two, but they're just a different team.
They're 3-1 this year at home, 1-3 on the road. So you're completely right.
Yeah, it's a different team when they're in wild, wonderful West Virginia. But yeah, to your point, Iowa State, another one of those teams, kind of like Texas. You look back at some of those losses, man. That's college football, sure, but. Yeah.
But this was Iowa State's year. This was the year that Iowa State's been waiting for a generation, where you've got everybody coming back from a really good football team that was playing really well at the end of the year, and you thought, all right, Matt Campbell, one of the best coaches in the country, he's going to roll it out there and have his team prepared every week, and they have been wildly inconsistent. They had started to play better. They got off to an inexplicably slow start again. Had started to play better, and with a slight chance, they went and they peed down their leg at West Virginia, and
hey,
you can't do that.
Somebody's got to play in the Cheez-It Bowl. I mean, it might as well be Iowa State, right?
Look,
somebody's, or what's it? What is it? The Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl? I mean, somebody's got to play in these games, bro.
Sun Bowl is a respectable football game.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, Iowa State. this is the best team you've had in a century. You're 5-3, and you've had some tough losses.
Last year was the best team they've had in a century, obviously, because it's the same team, but something's different, and it was better last year. So that was something that stood out. Ole Miss dropping that game. Like there was talk, and Kentucky. There was talk that Ole Miss and Kentucky. You're looking at their schedule. You're looking at the way they're playing. There was talk, especially in SEC country, like Ole Miss and Kentucky have pretty manageable deals from here on out. Could they both end up 11-1, and depending on what happens elsewhere, have a legitimate college football playoff, be in the discussion? Maybe not make it, but be in the discussion. And they both lose games. I mean, like losing to Auburn in Jordan-Hare, there's no shame in that. Although I think if those teams played 10 times and if fully healthy, Ole Miss probably wins the game more often than not. But Kentucky going into Mississippi State, and you joked about the Cowbells last week, and I always go back with, look, the Cowbells aren't that, like, whatever. They're annoying more than anything, but that's not the home field advantage people make it out to be. But apparently it is. Like, Will Rogers throwing for 344, Mississippi State playing some defense, and that defense has been good this year. That defense has been the strength of that team this year, but putting it together has been tough. And being able to beat Kentucky, that is something that certainly stood out because the SEC took a hit there. Like, it looked like every other conference where, outside, like, Ole Miss Auburn was a coin flip anyway. But this game was like one of those games where it happens in every other conference, doesn't often happen in the SEC, where the team that we think is the worst on one side beats a team that we think is one of the best on the other side. But it happened. So there you
go. We'd be remiss to not talk about Gary Patterson. Him and TCU have parted ways after, 22 seasons with the program? It's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, stuff.
So you've got a coach opening in Fort Worth, and, I mean, this is something that, quite frankly, TCU hasn't had to experience since pre-Mountain West Conference days. I mean, Gary Patterson's been there that long. So
it's about time. It's about time for Gary Patterson.
Yeah, it's been a rough year. I thought TCU was going to be a lot better this year. I know they haven't been healthy. Max Duggan's banged up, but I thought they were capable of wrecking some people's season in the Big 12. Instead, it's their season that's been wrecked multiple times.
But even more than that, like Gary Patterson was at a place where like his inflexibility in terms of who he is as a coach and probably as a person was going to start to become an issue with some of the athletes at TCU and just his overall thoughts on stuff. But
on the bright side, though, and Surber, you're a musician, so you can speak to this. I mean, he's been separated from his longtime head coaching job. I'm sure the album that he puts out after this is going to be a banger because he's going through some stuff right now. Right, Surbs? Like, that's usually where the great writing and composition stuff comes from. Dark places.
That is drug taking.
Okay, very good.
Is Gary Patterson's a musician?
You didn't know this? He released.
Does he do drugs? If so, we're in for a treat.
I don't know about that, but I do know that Gary Patterson.
Drugs or the music?
He can. He is a musician. He released some singles and stuff. I think it was a whole album during COVID.
Gary Patterson did? Wow, I missed that, and I'm glad I did.
You didn't know this, Server? Did you not know this?
No.
Yeah, bro.
No.
I mean,
it's not a well-known thing.
It is a well-known thing, actually. I mean,
Serber and I obviously didn't know it, so it may be known, but not well-known.
I mean, if it happened in the ACC, you'd be all over it, man. So it's fine.
Sure.
There's an excuse. It's all good. It's no big deal. Let's move on.
Speaking of the ACC, one thing that I did not mention that we should probably mention.
Your Miami Hurricanes?
What the hell, Pitt? What the hell, Pitt? Seriously. Like, you got a shot, Pitt. You got a shot. And you just go and now they did get screwed by some, as you call it, questionable officiating, which is officiating. They got screwed on the non-safety call because do you guys remember this sequence?
I saw it. Yeah, I get it. I mean,
watched that damn game.
It was on. It was on a screen.
So Miami's backed up. Down near their goal line after an interception. So they intercept Kenny Pickett inside the 5. They get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which backs it up inside like the 3 or the 2. Next play, Pitt tackles Jalen Knighton, and it looks like to the naked eye, he's still in the end zone. It is not a safety. Because remember, the entire ball has to get out of the end zone for it not to be a safety. All right? It's like the opposite of a touchdown. A touchdown, You just need to pierce the goal line, a safety. The entire ball has to get out of the end zone.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So
I'm with you.
they call it down on the 1 on the field, which they so often do. Like, make the call you think is the call. If the guy's entire body remains in the end zone, nothing of his body crosses the end line and gets into the field of play, it is a reasonable assumption that the ball doesn't either, unless the ball is extended. If, therefore, the ball is not extended, and you can see that, and you can also see that none of his body gets out of the end zone, you don't have to see the ball to then strongly infer that the ball remained in the end zone. Well, they call it down on the 1 on the field. Pitt is going ballistic. It gets reviewed. There's no angle showing the ball, which means play on the field stands. Next play, Miami hits a play down the field. They end up driving down, and I believe they score on that drive. I believe they score a touchdown on that drive. Now, Pitt, you could be better at football and just stop them at some point from going 97 yards. But, like, the officiating stuff has gotten pretty ridiculous. Let me see. The officiating stuff has gotten pretty ridiculous because, like, I understand not being able to overturn something on review because of, whatever. But it's just it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating because you're sitting there at home. You're like, oh, he didn't get out of the end zone. None of them got out of the end zone. They're like, well, can't see the ball. Stands. You're like, wait, what? Like my 3-year-old could say, like, oh, no, Dad, he didn't get out. Ball didn't get out. But anyway.
Pitt still in the driver's seat, though, as far as the
Yes.
Coastal is concerned.
Actually, no. Virginia controls their own destiny in the Coastal Division.
Oh, God.
Pitt does too. But Virginia, who just lost to BYU, controls their destiny because Pitt and Virginia have yet to play.
Where is that game?
That game is at Pitt at the end of November. It's November 20th is when that game's played, and that very well could decide the Coastal Division because the Coastal right now, you've got Virginia with 2 losses in the Coastal. Everybody else, Virginia with 2 losses, Virginia Tech with 2 losses, Miami with 2 losses, Pitt with 2 losses. The thing is, Virginia Tech has losses to Pitt already, and they play Virginia at the end of the year. So theoretically, they could get back into it. I don't want to do all the permutations where they do, but there's not a lot of them. Pitt just has to end up with more than 2 losses in the league, which, if what you watched the other day is any indication, is very possible because they've got Duke this week. They got UNC left, they got Virginia, and they got Syracuse. And I told you about Syracuse. They got Syracuse to end the year. Like, this thing is going to be bananas to the finish. You could have Virginia Tech in the Coastal Division. You could have Virginia Tech representing the Coastal Division. You could have Virginia. You could have Pitt. And, like, there's an outside shot you get Miami, but Miami's already got a loss to Virginia and North Carolina. North Carolina's probably not in it. They got 3 losses. But, look, it's wild, man.
Interesting. Well, I'll say this. Wake versus Virginia or Wake versus Pitt for the chip in Charlotte. First team to 60 wins. Like, I'm here for that. Doesn't matter who's coming out of the Coastal. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Look, I think if you're the organizers in Charlotte, you are hoping for either Pitt or Virginia because you're guaranteed points. You are guaranteed points.
Yeah, I'm here for that. Now, I don't know about ticket sales, but you are guaranteed points. All right, you want to talk?
See, I had this discussion the other day. Like, I think when Wake made it in 2006, like, they turned out. So I think whoever these 2 teams are,
it's a big stadium, Roddy. I mean,
it is a big stadium.
Wake will sell like, dude. I
don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into, but like, an ACC championship would mean something. Would mean a lot to either of these teams, more than Clemson. And when you think you actually have a shot to win the ACC championship, I think people will show up. So if it's Pittsburgh, I mean, they showed up for the Clemson game. Will they make the trek down to Charlotte? I don't know. We'll have to see. Virginia, I think so. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think winning an ACC, the prospect of winning an ACC championship, would certainly be one that's exciting for the rest of the ACC. And by the way, Clemson is not completely eliminated from the championship game. Just want to throw that one out there too.
Oh, boy, you had to do it, huh?
They got the loss to NC State, but if NC State's got Florida State, Wake, Syracuse, UNC to end the year.
Boy, murderer's row.
Are they? So Wake is the number. They're going to be a top 10 team. They are a top 10 team in the AP poll. Florida State playing pretty well. Syracuse playing pretty well. And you never know what happens with UNC. You say murderer's row like that. Are you confident? Are you confident that NC State goes better than 500 in those games?
No, they're
Because
probably
if they go 500, Clemson is squarely back in the race.
Oh, man. Well, I think Wake wins at Clemson, so I think none of the. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but let's just.
Yes.
Hasn't happened since 1998.
There you go. Well, they're due. They're due because Wake's going to get. Wake's going to get 30 on Clemson, bro. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
But Wake is
Have they
also
played
a
a
team that
defense
gave
as
up.
good as Clemson's this
Here
year?
we go.
That is
Here
correct.
Have they?
we go.
Wake also gave up 700 yards on the ground between Army and Syracuse the 2 weeks before they got Duke. Now Duke will give you some good feelings about yourself, but Clemson has run the ball pretty well the last couple of weeks.
Will Shipley, what up?
Well, he needs to catch the football and stop putting it on the ground.
Stop throwing it to him. Stop throwing it to him. Just run him up the tackles. He's a little bowling
Dude,
ball.
he's a little man child.
He reminds me of like a Todd Gurley or like a Mark
stop
Ingram,
that.
just like low to the ground, broad, just powering through the line. I love it.
Yeah,
He's a monster, frankly. Probably the best back in the league, or excuse me, the
Lord,
country.
Stop it! Oh my gosh.
Will Shipley probably going to win the Heisman next year.
Okay, very good.
Oh.
Yeah, very good.
All right. Anyway, if you are not watching the ACC race down the stretch, you are asleep on college football. Let me just say that.
All right. I mean, it's certainly a storyline to keep an eye on. Maybe not both eyes, but one eye. When you're not watching,
Well, it's fun.
ranked teams go at it
You
for
got
college football playoff stuff.
Georgia's already locked up the SEC East, the vaunted SEC East, before even getting into the month of November. So, they're basically Oklahoma's basically locked up a spot in the championship game before the month of November. Ohio State, that race is obviously good. The Big Ten West race is fascinating. In the Pac, what the hell is going on in the Pac-12?
Pac-12 is a little weird. Yeah,
It's very weird.
Pac-12
Oregon's
is-
obviously very good, and Oregon probably has punched their ticket, although they got Oregon State at the end of the year, and that could get weird. And they got Washington State.
They got a trip to Seattle, which could get weird for them.
I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, I not because Washington's going to be able to score points, but
Right,
I
so
think
what are we
defensively
doing
they
there?
could give Oregon problems.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of people that have given Oregon problems.
The Pac-12 is going to be it's
That'll
not
be fun.
it's certainly not set. It is a fluid situation, and yes, I don't know what's gotten into Washington State the last couple of weeks, but those guys are playing really good football.
Tell you what, hasn't gotten into Washington State.
What's that?
Vaccines.
Oh, very good. All right. Back here on college sports now. As many of you know, now that the calendar's flipped over to November, college football playoff rankings are coming out. Your playoff ranking, not your personal power rankings, Roddy. What do you think the committee is going to give us 1 through 6? Obviously, Georgia at the top, but from there, where are you taking us? How do you think this is going to look?
So I think it's fascinating, man, because the question that's going to be answered this year, first off, there's a bunch of new faces on the College Football Playoff Committee, and so you'll kind of get an answer. We'll be able to infer what they value at this point in time. Like, for example, do you value big wins? Because in Oregon is likely going to be certainly in the top 6, maybe in the top 4, because they've got the best win in the country going into Columbus and beating Ohio State. How much do you penalize teams for losses? Because big penalization of losses is going to knock Ohio State. They'll probably still be in the top 4, but they'll be at 4 instead of being at 2. Alabama, where will they lie? Because they could, if you don't value losses all that much, you could see Alabama at 2 because that loss was on the road. Now, albeit to an unranked team, so how much do you weigh that? Are they going to look at what Texas A&M actually is and not the fact that they were unranked and where they placed them? Michigan State, terrible schedule up until the Michigan game. So how much does that win bump them up? I think they have to be in the top 4 after that win. Oklahoma, undefeated team, shaky at times. Caleb Williams has been dominant. Where do they fall? So I think it's really going to be fascinating. Did you ask me what I thought it was Did you ask me?
Yeah, no,
were
I
you
mean,
teeing me
I
up?
appreciate the ability to kind of stretch and stall here, but yes, I would
wasn't
like
stretching and stalling.
I would
I
like
am-
1 through 6 for you. Yes.
I actually think it's very interesting. All right, so obviously number 1 is Georgia. I think number 2 they have Oklahoma.
Man.
And here's why. They will say Oklahoma under Caleb Williams has played 3 full games, correct? We've had 3 full games and then 2 other quarters in the back half of the Texas game, right?
Yep.
Of those 3 full games, so 12 quarters, and 2 other quarters, we have had 12 quarters of absolute incredible offense and 2 quarters of an absolute stinker, those first 2 quarters of the Kansas game. So if you measure that team by that and say, okay, this is who that team is, elite offense, pretty good defense, undefeated team in a real conference, that puts them at the number 2 team in the country because they don't have a loss and they have an offense that looks maybe not equal to Ohio State's, but the closest thing that we've seen in the entire country. So I think they're number 2. Number 3, I think it's Alabama. The loss to Texas A&M looms large, but the fact that this is a team that obviously has the bona fides, they've got the players, and when you watch them, they look like a team that's it's one of the best 2 teams in the country, and that's going to play into it at some point. Like the fact that they look like one of the best 2 teams in the country. So I think Alabama is number 3. Number 4, it's Michigan State right now. So I think Ohio State outside of the top 4 right now. And here's why. They have the win. They don't have a loss, and they have the win over Michigan. And then at 5 and 6, I don't know how you can not put Oregon over Ohio State. Ohio State's a better football team, but Oregon has the win. And when you're comparing those 2 teams, if Ohio State had been absolutely dominating against Penn State, I think they're a shoe-in for 5, maybe in that top 4, but they weren't.
Right.
So I think you get Oregon at 6, Oregon at 5, Ohio State at 6, and then Cincinnati's left at number 7.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot to digest there, and you're right. Like, there are some new faces on the committee. How they rank these teams, especially the Ohio State, Oregon situation, Cincinnati, I think it's going to kind of give you some insight into, hey, man, like, what do you look at? Like, how are we valuing this stuff? I don't think it's an easy set of teams to slot, right? Like,
No,
I think if you've got Cincinnati at 7, then like,
and honestly,
you got your work cut out for you.
The discussion outside of the top 7 is tough as well, and it is important. Like, where does Notre Dame fall in all this? Where does Wake Forest fall?
Where you got the Deeks? You think they're 8 or 9? And they're in the top 10, right?
They're firmly in the top 10. Yeah, I would have them. I think I'd have them above. I think I'd have them above Notre Dame and Michigan because they're undefeated. Like, you're undefeated in a big boy conference. That has to be worth something.
So you got Wake at 8. Wake at 8, and then
I have Wake at 8.
Notre Dame
and
at
then
9.
I'd have Notre Dame at 9 and Michigan at 10.
Okay.
Yeah, Michigan's roads on the law there's a legitimate argument to have Michigan at 8, Michigan at 9, Oklahoma State at 10, and Notre Dame at 11 because they lost at home to Cincinnati. Yeah, that's what I would have. I'd have Michigan at 8, Oklahoma State at 9, and then Notre Dame at 10. Did I get that right?
Where are we moving the Deeks?
Oh, sorry. No. Wake at 8. All right. Here it is. Wake at 8, Michigan at 9, Oklahoma State at 10, and then Notre Dame at 11.
Okay. I mean, if you're Cincinnati,
what would you have?
Well, I don't have a problem with your top 3. I don't have a problem with your top 3. I think Alabama's a better football team than Oklahoma, but I understand that, like, it's Oklahoma. Since the change, they've been a different team. I think Alabama would be favored by more than a touchdown against Oklahoma. I think Alabama's got a better offense than Oklahoma and a better defense.
Not with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, with Caleb Williams. Yeah, I do. Listen, that's just me. I would have
a push, but
I would have Oregon right where they are, outside the top 4. I'm looking at your list. I don't really have a ton of beef there. Michigan State at 4, knowing what's still to come on their schedule, and Ohio State, if you put them at 6, knowing that they still get a head-to-head with Sparty. Yeah, I mean, like, I get it.
And the committee does think about that stuff. Like, the committee does look at the schedule and say, okay, this feels good for now, and it will sort itself out. But this feels good for now. Hold on, let me go grab my binder. I'm going to talk about. I want to mention some of the stuff that they look at. Hold on, give me a second.
The binder, love it. Roddy has been a part of a mock selection committee before, so I think that's the binder that we're referring to. I'm sure I've
got the binder.
Bill Hancock blessed you with the binder.
Look, you get to take your binder. I want to describe what we're seeing right now. I'm holding it up to the screen. What does it say? It says 2019 mock selection committee. What it doesn't say, mock selection exercise. What it doesn't say is 2019 mock selection exercise committee chair. I was the chairperson.
You were the chair, yes.
Sitting right next to Bill Hancock and Rob Mullins. I was in that seat. I said, guys, it's time to move on. I held it in my hands. All right? So here's the kind of stuff that they look at. You know, obviously, they pull up these stats where obviously they look at stuff like scoring offense, but relative scoring offense is interesting. How much do you score against your opponents relative to what they typically give up? That's interesting. Does a team typically give up more yards than a team's average? It's what Phil references all the time. So when Phil's talking about that stuff on Wednesdays with you and Wayne, listen to what he says about these teams that are in the top 4. You know, if he throws out Ohio State usually, 200 yards above what their opponents typically give up, that's an important stat. Because when you're ranking offense, you're like, man, this team is really good on offense, and they absolutely dominate teams in a way that other teams don't. So listen to what Phil's dropping there. And then they break it down: relative rushing offense, relative passing defense, relative scoring defense, relative total defense. They break it down: strength of schedule, opponents' records, non-conference opponents' records. How many cross-divisional opponents are you talking about? Situational, current CFP top 25 teams. That won't be something that they look at the beginning, but it will be going forward. Other things: relative scoring differential, points per play on offense, points per play on defense. Starting field position differential has often been shown to be very indicative of how good a team is. So they are breaking this stuff down all the way, and it's probably evolved since then. But there's a lot of stuff that they're looking at. They got these things for every single team. Like, what team you want to talk about? I've got the 2014 season. You know a good team to talk about? Team that was crushing it that year? The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Let's look at them. Relative scoring offense, 152.45%. Elite offense. That is elite offense. Relative scoring defense, not as good, but still. So
is that the Orange Bowl season, 2014?
Yeah, it was the Orange Bowl season.
All right, yeah.
That was the Baylor TCU season, and that's the season that they use when you go in and you do their mock exercise.
Interesting. I will pose this question: do you think we're feeling different about Cincinnati if they hadn't goofed around the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, of course. But here's my Cincinnati thing. I think Cincinnati has gotten the bump that people have accused SEC teams of having for a long time. Like, people always accuse SEC teams, Alabama, whatever. Like, if you blind resume Team X from the SEC, they wouldn't be there where you have them ranked. I think Cincinnati's getting the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways now. They've got one top 25 win, albeit on the road, and they've struggled against some teams that are really bad. Like, those score lines are not good, and the way those games played out are not good. So if you were to take away the C on the helmet, if you were to take away the names on the back of the jerseys and just said, all right, here's your roster. How many pros do these guys have? Here's how the games have gone. All those stats that I just talked about, results, obviously, controlling the game, all that stuff. Where does this team rank? It's a fringe top 10 team. Fringe. And honestly, when you put the conference on it, you're probably like, I mean, the Notre Dame win is all they have right now. Yeah. And SMU losing doesn't help them at all.
No, it doesn't. Although
SMU is still in the top 20.
Getting a ranked Houston team in December, potentially for a championship game, helps.
Agreed. Now, yeah, so maybe it does. Let me take that back. because SMU is still in the top 25 and Houston could be undefeated going into the championship game. Yes, agreed. That it may actually help them. And
Well,
we had both SMU and Houston, and we kind of talked about that on the broadcast that we had earlier this year.
Yeah, SMU still in the AP top 25. We'll see what the committee says. It's going to be weird because Cincinnati's the AP number 2, and you're going to be seeing them. I think you're right. You've got them at 7. I think they'll be in that. I think they'll be in that 6 to 8 range. I mean, I don't see them being any higher, just given what's ahead of them with some of these undefeated and one-loss teams. So, yeah, and also you trailed at Navy. You trailed at Tulane the last 2 Saturdays. That's not. It's not good, man. It's not helping your case, for sure.
No, it's not. And again, back to my blind resume statement. Like, blind resume them. Strength of schedule, terrible. You got one top 25 win. You're losing to both of those teams. And that's a Navy team that's struggling. It's a Tulane team that's got 1 win on the season. Like, these are not good football teams that you are now. Are they allowed to, ultimately, if you win the game, should you be given credit for that? Sure. The fact that Tulane, was beating Oklahoma at the beginning of the season at halftime, like, did we dock Oklahoma in the same way? Probably not, because Oklahoma's made a quarterback change that's made them drastically better. But, like, I don't know, man.
By the way, speaking of, we're talking about Cincinnati and their schedule, I don't know if Oregon's got any ranked teams left on their schedule this year. So that's another one. Like, it'll be interesting to see how the committee handles the Ducks. Yeah, you got the best win in college football this season, but your remaining games, the 2 Washington schools at Utah and then home to Oregon State. Beavers lost at Cal over the weekend. Not sure many people saw that. So, yeah,
I did not see it.
You got a bunch of unranked teams. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk. I think Seattle's going to be a challenge. Salt Lake City's going to be a challenge.
If Oregon has to dominate.
Yeah.
Oregon has to dominate. Like, and if they dominate, they'll be in.
Well, they dominated Colorado Saturday, but the last month prior, they had not dominated anybody.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that look, it's going to be interesting, man. I think it is going to come down to, and you were in the room, Roddy. How much does, like, what's the statistical phrase? What's the politically correct term to describe style points? Because I think it is going to come down to some of these teams taking care of business emphatically during the month of November, right?
So, and style points don't mean running up the score, because these people watch the games. Like, if you score, if you're up 45 to nothing at halftime and it ends up being 100 to nothing, those last 55 points don't mean anything. It's the first 45 that mean something. So, you can talk about game control. Like, that was one that was thrown out a lot. Or has been, and people will have varying ideas on that. The thing that people need to realize is, like, there's football people who are going to say, man, they were dominant. They breaking down the film and say that was a dominant performance, and it may be a 30 to nothing performance. Like, is that running up the score? No, but it is being dominant. You can't be losing, certainly at halftime, but it doesn't have to be 100 to nothing. Like, you don't need to be going tempo in the fourth quarter up 60.
Right.
So you just have to play well. And beat a team like you should. Like, Oregon needs to go out and look like they are one of the top 4 teams in the country playing against teams that are unranked. That's what it should look like. And if it doesn't look like that, then we're going to have questions. And what that score looks like, I don't know. It could be 28-0. It could be 14-0. No, it probably shouldn't be 14-0. But it needs to look the part.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. I'm here for November football, man. It's the best time of year. By the way, I'm looking at the schedule. I mean, we got Maction, we got Sunbelt stuff. We've got college football games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like, for the next several weeks. I mean, we're in a groove with midweek football, and I'm here for it. I think it's great. Tuesday night Maction, let's go. Wednesday, Sunbelt, giddy up. I'm here for it. All right, let's do Rodstradamus and get out of here, my man. Don't need to dwell on this. Really rough week.
Why are you talking about old stuff?
I mean, because I want to put a little bit of context around what we're about to do here. For the uninitiated, Roddy Jones picks games. He sees the future. We've given him the nickname Rodstradamus. Well, on Saturday he went 1-5 against the spread. That ain't it, bro. And that one win, as we mentioned earlier, was Florida State plus 10.5. That should have been a loss. I give you credit for getting an early number before that thing came down to 9.
Most of the time I get burned on the early numbers.
Yeah.
So.
Your boy here had Florida State plus 9. So we don't need to dwell on that. But you went 1-5. That brings your record for the season to 25, 29-1. You are now officially in a hole. You need to dig yourself out of that hole. So I'll delete these games. We don't need to dwell on some of the awful picks like Kentucky and Boston College and Texas and Pitt. Just some god-awful decisions by you. But let's move on to Week 10, okay? I'm looking at the lines. I've got point spreads here. Let's jump in. Let's try to get out of this hole.
Yeah. Man, first off, I want to say whoever's listening to me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, unlike what we normally tell people when they're on the couch, this is your fault.
Yeah,
this is your fault.
You did this. This is absolutely my fault.
That's like when I'm talking to my kids and they act up and they're like, "I'm sorry, can I have another chance?" And I'm like, "How many chances you want?" Now, in this case, Roddy, we've got 16 weeks of this, so we keep giving you chances. We're going to keep feeding you.
Yeah.
But you got to put some bread on the table for us now. I mean, come on.
Okay. I got you. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm
going
ready.
to take first and foremost. What's 11-5? Is that a Friday night? That is a Friday night. Friday night affair. You know me. I love me some Friday night games, and this is a game I'm going to be watching intently.
Don't do this.
I'm taking Virginia Tech -3 at Boston College. Why do you hate that?
I mean, because you see Virginia Tech go down to Atlanta. They rally around their soon-to-be fallen head coach. They beat Georgia Tech, and now you're like, let's do it again.
Well, no, I see Boston College, and Boston College can't score the football right now. And Virginia Tech plays pretty good defense. So, I don't know if Virginia Tech can score, but I think Virginia Tech will be able to score more than 3 points.
Chestnut Hill on a Friday night. I haven't checked the weather, but oh boy,
it's probably just like Blacksburg.
You don't just stroll. You don't just stroll into that place, man.
Where do you just stroll into, Steven? Because you consistently say you don't just stroll into.
I'll tell you places. I'll tell you places where you stroll in and get dubs. You ready?
Yep.
Lawrence, Kansas, Durham, North Carolina, and that's really it, man. There's not a ton of easy dubs out there, but those two places are easy dubs.
All right, that's fair. All right, so I'm going there first. My next one.
Oh, also Storrs, Connecticut. Sorry, go on. You may
Storrs,
proceed.
Connecticut. Is that
and Nashville.
Yeah.
That's it. That's where you stroll in and get dubs, bro.
Who are some 0 teams this season? All right, next one. Give me Iowa on the road -12.
I mean, should Iowa be favored over anybody by 12 these days?
Well, have you seen Northwestern play offense?
Yeah, they're really bad.
And Iowa's pretty good on defense. So all they would need is like 20, and I think they'll cover this.
Bro, they've put up 14 the last 2 games combined.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's
I'm
okay.
going there.
You want to ride with Iowa laying double digits on the road? Okay, yeah, they're due, right? Okay.
Yes, I do.
I'm pretty sure Kirk Ferentz's son is the offensive coordinator, by the way, so that could get weird.
That is true.
Yeah, so what do you do there?
Is the offensive coordinator at Iowa?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not going anywhere, bro. That's the exact type of offense Kirk Ferentz wants to play.
But that's my point. Like, hey, what's going on with our offense? Who's calling the plays? Oh, okay, got it. It's the head coach's son. Okay, got it. Excellent.
It's like, hey,
very good.
At Miami, why is our quarterback play so terrible? Mark Richt, who's coaching the quarterback? Oh, John Richt. So we can't make a move there. Got it.
Hey, Van Dyke is
TVD.
Like last 3-4 weeks. I mean, it's been a bit of a revelation for them.
They've taken the reins off of them, and they've said, hey, well, so there's a couple things going on here. Really, the past few weeks, they have not been able to sustain drives. Like, they are not a sustained drive type offense consistently, but they've been able to hit big plays. And when you can hit big plays, they've taken the reins off Tyler Van Dyke. He's throwing the ball down the field. He's playing really well. Miami fans should be really excited about the future with Tyler Van Dyke. And they've anointed Jake Garcia as the next guy and, like, whatever, man, because he's got to be better than TVD, and TVD's pretty damn good right now. So
he's got a nickname and everything.
I mean, it's just his initials, TVD, Tyler Van Dyke.
Yeah, but
TVD.
when he came in against Virginia, nobody was calling him TVD. It was, who's this scrub who's going to try to lead us to victory. That's all. It's a fickle fan base down there. All right, so Iowa -12 at Nebraska. That is a Saturday affair. That's a night game. Ooh, why? All right, let's keep it moving.
Yeah. Wake +2.5 at Carolina.
Can you explain to our listeners why this is a non-conference game?
Yes. So because of the way the ACC has 7 teams in each division, and there is a rotation there that happens on a 6-year cycle. Like every 6 years, you play somebody from the opposite side. So basically, Wake Carolina, despite being in the same state, despite being close, have played each other without this, would play each other like once every 11 years, which is completely ridiculous. So Wake and Carolina decided, hey, we both need non-conference games. We both think we should play each other. It's cheap. We should do this. And so they decided to schedule non-conference games with each other, which is what it's come to because these divisions and the rotations are stupid.
Well,
that's why it's a non-conference game.
Thank you for telling us
Also,
how you feel.
Duke and NC State, same rotation. Like, they don't play each other on a regular basis. They're like 15 miles apart.
Right.
They don't play each other, but once in a blue moon. It was great last year because of COVID because all of them had to play each other. And so you could legitimately say, like, hey, we are the champion of the state.
Last time North Carolina played Wake Forest, we were treated to 59-53, Roddy Jones.
It was a fantastic game. It was so good. And North Carolina was good on offense then.
So
they are not right now.
I mean, let me check this out here. You know what the point total is for Wake at North Carolina non-conference Saturday at high noon?
I don't.
75 and a hook. Take the over.
I was going to go the opposite way on that.
Who's getting stops?
Wake's defense.
Wow.
Look, they haven't been great, but like Carolina has 2 players right now. Sam Howell and Josh Downs. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, actually, I take that back. Josh Downs is fast enough to it's a bad matchup for Wake because they're not overly athletic in the secondary. So,
all right, Wake +2.5. I'm going to put that before Iowa -12. We're going to do these in chronological order because that bothers me if it's not. Okay, let's keep it moving.
I felt good about this one. I don't anymore, but I'm doing it. Give me Maryland +10.5. Why'd you laugh?
Server's laughing at you.
Anytime anyone ever is like, yeah, I think Maryland's going to win, it's funny to me. It's comedy.
Didn't say I thought Maryland was going to win. I said I thought they would cover.
Maryland is hosting Penn State. Penn State.
I said at home, right?
Oh, sorry. I didn't. I just heard Maryland, and I too kind of just checked out.
Yep.
You didn't. Yep. You guys don't like that pick, do you?
No, I don't. This isn't basketball, man.
Would you like that pick in basketball?
Maryland's better at basketball than they are football. By the way, hoop season.
Not by much.
Before you know it, Matt Norlander will be on the show spitting fire.
I love basketball season.
You sound like a guy who loves basketball season.
For anyone who is seeing the visual representation of this CSN on the Varsity channel on YouTube, which you can subscribe to the Varsity for a lot of cool videos on YouTube about Syracuse. There's some Syracuse basketball stuff with Buddy Boeheim and Jim Boeheim right now. That's pretty interesting. But also you can catch this show on there. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, CastBox, Pocket Cast, wherever you get your fine podcasts, we're also now on YouTube for the Roddy Show early in the week. So go search the Varsity Network on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and get us all up in your face every week.
Show us your face.
Show us your face.
We want to see your face.
Yeah. So we'll have refreshments and fellowship afterwards.
That was good, man. That was like that. You didn't have a script. That was not a read. That was all. That came from the soul, Serber.
Sounded like a read.
Sure did. That being said, screw basketball. Screw this.
No, next couple weeks.
If you've been seeing me type this entire time on the YouTube feed, it's like me responding to emails, me like making promos, me trying to craft an email that says, hey, here's the 27 broadcasts we have coming up over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a rough time in the biz. Just
rise and grind, baby.
People like Hartzell and Roddy who make it possible for you to enjoy all your fine content.
No, man, we're a team. We're a team here, Server. We would not be here without you. We would not be here without you. I'd still be asleep, crying because of the Braves. All right, we got 4 picks so far, sir. Roddy, you want to give us, what do you got, 2 more? You can go 6-pack?
I got 2 more.
You're in a hole. If you want to give us 8 or 10, like, I'm good with that too.
No. That's a little aggressive. I got 2 more. We're dipping in the SEC, the Southeastern Conference.
Oh, okay.
Give me Tennessee plus 2.5 at Kentucky.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like that pick.
Give me Tennessee plus 2.5.
Because Tennessee can score and Kentucky can't.
Yes. I think Kentucky's played pretty good defense this year, but I think Tennessee's going to be able to score points. And Tennessee hasn't been terrible on defense. So I kind of like Tennessee to win that game.
Vol's coming off a bye, I believe. So, yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, my last one. Give me Texas A&M minus 4.5. They got Auburn coming to College Station.
Interesting. All right.
I think it's letdown. I think it's a perfect letdown for Auburn, and like we can't ignore the fact that Bo Nix historically has not played well on the road. Texas A&M is off a bye, I believe, as well. They didn't play last week, right?
Correct.
So you're getting Texas A&M off a bye at home. Kyle Field, Auburn coming off a big win over Ole Miss, going on the road. Bo Nix. I like Texas A&M minus 4.5.
Okay. I love it. That's your 6-pack. Rodstradamus.
6-pack Shakur.
I
almost dipped into LSU plus 29. Almost dipped into that one.
There are some pretty insane lines in the SEC. You mentioned LSU. You can get
have you seen the Georgia line?
Yeah, you can get Missouri getting 38 between the hedges. That's
a big number.
In fairness,
also, don't want to touch it.
In fairness, like they haven't. I mean, Georgia's covered every spread this year except Kentucky, which was a backdoor, like as time expired situation. Yeah. I mean, they can't make the spreads big enough. So there you go. Yeah. Roddy, before we get out of here, where will you be on Thursday? You mentioned Duke Pitt is the Saturday ACC Network game upcoming.
Yep, Duke Pitt on Saturday, and then Thursday we got the Georgia State at Louisiana game. Georgia State still in control. Maybe not in control of their own destiny. They lost to App State. But Georgia State tied at the top of the Sun Belt East. In the Sun Belt West, you got Louisiana undefeated in conference. Sole loss on the season came week 1.
Yep.
That was to Texas.
Yep.
So this Louisiana team has not played as well as their record, but Louisiana team that could be the Group of 5 representative in that New Year's 6. Could be it. You never know. And by the way, you better start getting used to the Sun Belt football because the Sun Belt's about to become what the American is now. The absolute best Group of 5 conference. The American is no longer in the football business. Whenever you add Rice, you are no longer in the football business. Plus, after they lose Sonny Dykes, SMU is going to go to poop. So,
and JMU's coming to the Sun Belt. Go ahead. You can just let them know.
And JMU's
just
coming
let
to the
them
Sun Belt.
know. Dukes are coming. They're coming for the crown, baby.
So, in all seriousness, I had a chance to talk to Mike Houston last week. ECU's head coach was at JMU. I asked him about it. I was like, hey, JMU going to the Sun Belt. Like, probably a few years later than you wanted him to, but, like, that's a big deal. How do you think they'll do? He's like, man, let me just tell you. I think they've got a shot to be what App State was. Jump up, have early success, and be able to put that thing in a place where it's sustainable. So, JMU.
I've been telling people for a decade, man. I'm glad it's finally happening.
Monarchs.
At Roddy Jones 20 on Twitter.
Coming to the Sun Belt.
At L_Cerberino. At Stephen Hartzell. You can interact with the show at
it's Old Dominion Monarch.
Now tweets. We don't talk about Old Dirty, man. Come on. Clean it up. Roddy,
we'll clean it up in post.
We'll be watching. We'll be listening on Thursday night. Good luck to our Braves. I don't know how it's going to go. But, hey, man, we're here. So let's just see. We're back on Wednesday. Wayne Cook will be stopping by. Phil Steele will be here as well. Talk to you guys then. So long.